Hello and welcome back to Model Engineers Laser. My name is Connor. This is part 2 in a series building our Y6 tram engine in gauge 1. Some of you may have noticed that in the first episode of this series I made a mistake. The detail on this end I put on upside down, as you can see by the fact you can still see the line here. This end I've already corrected on it. This end I haven't. So what the plan to do is, we've got a replacement part, and the plan would be to use a small scalpel blade and to slowly peel off this one. If we break it, it doesn't matter, we've got a replacement, and glue on a new one in its place. It should be a simple enough job knowing I've already done the other side. So it's just a case of getting the blade underneath current detail until it releases, or should do. So with careful use of both the sanding block and the scalpel, I've managed to remove most of the residue left by the glue on the surface. So the next job will be to refit it, but this time the correct way up. So the lines left by the laser cutter should be covered by the detail pack. So I'm going to glue this back in place and then carry on from where we left off. So whilst the glue is drying on the new detail pack, we're going to carry on with the instruction booklet, and the next section in this is section 8, forming the cow catchers. Now I've already done one. That's what they should look like, and these will fit underneath here like so to form a cow catcher on the front of the engine. These come like this. So they require bending, but first we need to start by removing all of the offcuts in the middle. Just a simple case of just pulling them apart and pulling the middle parts out, and then these can go in the scrap bin. Right, so now we've removed all the laser cut offcuts. The instructions state to start by bending this top piece at approximately 45 degrees. This will be the face that will sit underneath the front buffer beam. Well, source buffer beam. We say to use a vise, but as I don't have one here, I've got a small pair of mod grips, and what I'm going to do is just grab onto it and work my way along slowly, bending it over, mainly where the slot is open in the laser cut. So I'm just going to slowly work along, bending it over until it's about the angle we want. The exact angle at which this is sat can be adjusted as we work our way forwards to suit, but it's best to get it as close as possible to start with. So the next step is going to be bend these sides out. You can see roughly here, if it'll focus, roughly here where it's meant to bend, where the corner, where the edge changes, and this can be done by hand, but it's probably best to do it with something a bit more solid to get it a bit straighter. Again, this just needs forming round until it meets up, if it'll focus, meets up on the edge here. and try and get it as close as possible to straight and parallel down the side. Again, I've got the sanding block, which I'm just going to use to draw it up against to ensure I've got a flattish edge. Again, that needs doing on both ends. So the aim with this is, so when you've got it sat on a flat surface, I'm going to use the sanding block just so it's close to the camera. It should sit somewhat flat. So I hold it up, it sits more or less, if it'll focus on the piece, it will sit more or less flat against the flat surface, which is what we want. And then this is going to get glued into place on here. Don't drop it. It's going to get glued in place approximately there, and it should more or less meet up with the top, with the base of the beam and the floor of the body. So I'm now going to just glue this in place on this end, and on the other end fit the other one, like so. So the next step, now we've finished with the cow catchers, is to do the coupling plates and in the effect the couplings. So the two plates come fitted on a sprue like this, so they need cutting off and cleaning up. And all I used was a pair of these cutters, which were intended for cutting double O gauge track, flexi track to length. Once they've been cut off, you can clean up the sprue with a file. You end up with two parts like this. These will be fitted. Oh, drop one. These will be fitted either side of the front buffer beam, and we'll have the coupling through them. And again, these will need eventually cutting off and cleaning up as well. Right, so I've removed all the bits from the sprues. So this is the collection of bits that we're going to need to complete this next step. Oh, losing bits already. I've already done one and fitted it to the other end of the tram. See, it's sprung on the little spring. So we shall now fit it to the same operation on this side to fit this side. Put it underneath there to keep it upright. The first step is to make sure everything fits together nicely. So these two bits need to be able to push together and slide, and so should this bit, the little round bit at the back with the slot in, needs to be a nice sliding fit on there as well. There we go. So that makes sure once it's all together it will work as intended, because otherwise it won't. The first step is going to be drilling the holes for this piece to fit on the front here. So it's going to fit somewhere over the top of that central hole. Somewhat line it up centre and level. Doesn't have to be exact, but somewhere near will do. With that lined up somewhat central, I've got a little pin vise with a little 1.5mm drill, and all we're going to do is just slowly drill through the wood, making the hole all the way through both plates, just so we can fit the other side on as well. So it's just a case of sitting here, twisting a drill until it goes all the way through the bit of wood. And we need to do this in both holes, both this one and the other one, which is underneath my finger there. I'll come back once I've drilled these. Right, so I've drilled one hole so far. So what I'm going to do is just put the bolt through both the coupling plate and the buffer beam, so that one lines up before I then drill the second hole. So just again check it's level and then drill the second hole. Now that both holes are drilled, first just check that you can get both bolts to fit through, and they do fit like so. Now for this next step I found that it's actually easier to do this without these bolts fitted, purely because it's difficult to get the split pin to fit. So I just remove this plate. What we're going to do is, if I drop the bolts out of there, like so, we take this plate, push the coupling through. I'll turn this upside down now. Just going to be a little bit difficult to see. So we're also going to need to push that through the hole, like so. Push that plate over the top, and now comes the difficult bit. This is the bit where you can lose bits if you're not careful. we're going to fit a spring. This is a spring out of an old pen. That's going to have to sit over the top, making sure it will fit into the hole in the body, like so. And now this is the difficult bit. Take the little round plate, push that over the top of the coupling. It will go if I line it up properly. Fit that over the top of the plate, and this is why I've left the front undone, so you can still spin it and rotate it. And the bits can't come off. And then, whilst it's still up that way, if you can see past my finger, push the split pin through the hole. It should go through the hole, like so. And it's got the split pin through the hole. And then what we'll do, we'll split the split pin, and then I'll cut it to length as well. And then all we have to do is make sure the coupling is facing the right way up, and then put the two little bolts through the holes and put the nuts on from the back, which I shall do in just a moment, and I'll come back, mainly because this will be a little bit fiddly whilst trying to hold it in front of the camera. Right, and like that, we've now got the function coupling on this end. If you can pull on it, it springs itself back. You may notice I've split the split pin, but I haven't actually put the nuts on the bolt yet, as I don't know where I've put my little pair of pliers, so that'll be a job for later on. I'll come back and visit that once I finish this video. Right, so that is both couplings fitted onto the engine. Next up, we'll be doing the roof. To make the roof, we're going to need 4 items. The first being the rolled roof sheet, along with the 3 support pieces. These support pieces are going to need some slight modification with the file, just to round off the edges and make them a nice fit into the slots in here. Once you've done that, as I've already done with this one here, they should be a nice fit into the slots in the roof, and you should just be able to push them in place, like so. As you can see, there's small gaps underneath, which is what you want. So I'll just make sure that is all pressed down nicely. That's one in place, and then repeat with the other 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some super glue just to hold that in place. This can be soldered, but I've chosen to glue it for this one. So I've just got some super glue, which I've got left over from a previous project, and what I'll do, I'll just run a fillet of glue along the back edge there, and that should hold it in place. And then repeat that for the other 2 as well. And then I'll move on to the next bit. And just like that, I've got all 3 support pieces in place. I didn't get quite a nice fillet down the centre one there, but oh well. So if we take the body, that now fits nicely over the top, like so. What I will do is I will, probably on a belt sander, just clean up these where the tabs are sticking out to make it a nice smooth top. But that'll be a job for another day. So the next job is going to fit the buffers. These came from Walsall Model Industries. These are LNER buffers, without focus. That's where we got them from and what they are. These will fit on the end through these holes here. Again, these will be super glued. What we'll have to do is take them apart first to stop you getting any glue on the inside and stopping them from springing. I've realised I've not got that in focus. There you go. To stop the spring from getting stuck. So we'll take them apart, glue them in place, keeping them somewhat square, full focus, keeping it somewhat square to the body. We'll glue them in place like that, and one in each corner. So one there, and the same on the other end. So first step, take them apart like so, glue the end on there, and then we can put them back together. Just push the end back in, and then from the inside put the nut on the bolt sticking through there. Focus, put the nut on the end sticking through the hole there. Right, I'll get them done. Right, so I've now fitted the buffers on both ends of the tram, like so. Pushing quite nicely. Yeah. So I think that will be it for this video. As you can see by the instructions, we've just fitted the buffers here. Further details, no other details are included in the kit, so I won't be adding any for these videos. And then we'll be on to building the chassis up, which, if I bring the box over from over there, there is our chassis, along with a handful of other bits, which will be the subject of our next video. So that's it for now.